Yep.
Too sweet! Hi, welcome to JD Sports. I'm Jared Hood. That's Dwight Garfield. You can find our shows at the show's Twitter page, which is @_JD Sports. So Dwight,
What up?
usually I'm asking how you're doing, this, that, and the next thing, or we just jump right into it. But I have a little kind of some musical things to share with you this week. On the day that we recorded the show, now for the people who don't know, my favorite, probably, and it's hard for me to really pin this down, but because I'm so widespread musically. But honestly, if I had to probably pick it, my favorite artist, my favorite individual person in music of all time is Jay-Z. Yours is Michael Jackson.
Absolutely. We just had actually the 7th anniversary this
Last
past
week.
Saturday of his passing.
Very
So
sad. Rest in peace to MJ.
R.I.P. MJ.
Well, 15 years ago, the day of this show is recorded, on the Summer Jam stage, Hove brought out Michael Jackson, and it was a very, now, I'm a hip-hop head.
I do remember that.
I'm a hip-hop head. It's a very momentous moment in hip-hop, because MJ really didn't, ever follow into, he never really, hung out with rap artists,
Right.
That's the best way, or at least grace the stage with them.
Right. No, not at all. Ever. He messed with it, but he wasn't.
And
he was never there.
And here was Jay-Z, who, at the time, he actually invented Summer Jam. That was his, little festival that he started. He was always the main act at that time, and he always brought someone really big out, someone really cool. And that was actually the last year that he headlined it. When he did it back to back years, whatever it was. That was the last one. He did it a couple times since now, obviously, but that was the last one for a long time. And he was like, I got to end it on a bang. So he actually brought the King of Pop out, which is awesome, and it's kind of a connection between the two of us because of how much I love, Jay-Z and how much you love MJ. So I figure share that with the audience.
That's actually funny because I did see those photos of that event resurfaced today on my Facebook timeline.
That's exactly why, I would assume.
I had no idea. Yeah. That's the reason.
Jay-Z's
So that's
wearing
fantastic.
the Knicks jersey, and he got the bandana on. It's actually really funny to see because it's like
he never wears a bandana. Well, does he ever wear a bandana?
Back then, though, and that's what I was. It's awesome to me that 2016 in the social media era has the Jay-Z and button-ups and some boat shoes because, to be honest with you, the 1990s, early 2000s, mid-2000s Jay-Z wouldn't probably last in this world, especially as fashion was. Which I rock jerseys. You know what I mean? I love the old 90s fashion. I love the way Jay-Z just styled himself.
But that's you and I. That's not.
He's a multi-mogul millionaire. He also dresses like a multi-mogul millionaire now. So 2016 Jay-Z is actually probably the most legit, mature Jay-Z that the world can handle, and he's really good for this time.
That's the most PC way.
But every now and then I know. But every now and then I like to look back and see, that Jay-Z, and I love looking at those pictures. And the Reasonable Doubt thing, he brought all those clothes himself. Anyways, not gonna get into it. It's a sports show. Quickly, unfortunately, so I know you were just talking about, MJ, rest in peace to him. I'm wearing the old Eagles shirt today in honor of Buddy Ryan, who passed away, the Eagles coach in the late 80s, early 90s. Funny story, and I think the world right then and at this time should have known how connected I was going to be in sports after I tell you the story. When when my mom was pregnant with me, my parents had discussions of naming me James David Hood. Buddy Ryan's name is James David Ryan. So they were literally naming me after Buddy Ryan. That's how, into the Eagles my parents were, both of them. And they actually went back and forth. And my mom was actually on board because she loved Buddy Ryan for a long time. They changed it last minute because they didn't, they wanted me to be unique. And I love my name. I like that it's very different. But my middle name is still David. And it's actually, it's because of Buddy Ryan. So it's a pretty deep connection for my family, for myself, because growing up, obviously, if they were that into him, they just instilled into me all these great things about Buddy Ryan and all these amazing things he did. So it's very sad, the Eagles organization. The Cowboys, the fun battles that they had with the Cowboys throughout the 90s. Bounty Bowl, I know them taking Mendejas out in Thanksgiving, but that's part of their rivalry. The Snow Bowl where the snowballs are getting thrown at Jimmy Johnson and stuff, and there's Buddy Ryan encouraging fans to do it. He was perfect. It never
ended with y'all. Huh?
It never did. And Buddy Ryan was perfect for that because he would talk shit through the media. He would, he actually would get Jimmy Johnson to say things back to him in the media, which at that time, Jimmy Johnson, who we all know could be a little charismatic, he never really addressed the other coaches. He never really would talk, anything through the media. They had war of words multiple times through the media, and I thought that was pretty cool, and it showed their, how passionate, especially at that time, their relationship was. I think at the end of the day, they both really respect each other. How could you not respect either of them? And I think that they both see it from both sides, but it was very fun for them at the time, and what he did for, he was Randall's coach. He was Reggie White's coach. He was Jerome Brown's coach. I can go on, Andre Waters, all those guys, Seth Joyner, but and that's all Eagles. I mean, you could talk about the '85 Bears. You can go all day about Buddy Ryan's career, but what he did in that specific rivalry that I'm telling you about, like he had the Eagles up a step of the Cowboys, but the Cowboys ended up winning 3 Super Bowls. So you know what I mean? Who had the win, right? Exactly. And the Cowboys do get that. They get that last laugh, but
definitely,
he's a big part of that rivalry, and he's just for us in general
absolutely.
as Eagles fans, he's a very big part of us. So rest in peace. It's very sad. He fought he was one of a kind. He fought a guy on the sidelines. He was the defense coordinator. He fought the offense coordinator of the Oilers. Him and
like a Philadelphia guy.
Him and Mike Ditka would get in arguments all the time, and they actually had the locker room split. Like even offensive players were liking things that Buddy Ryan was doing, or agreeing with things that Buddy Ryan was saying, but he just was over there coaching the defense. I mean, there's a famous quote. I think it was one of the games they lost in that 84, 85, 86 era. It was, I can only control the defense. I can't control what Jim McMahon does, or something like that. Like just absolutely. But those were the those were the kind of thing. Like that was Buddy Ryan. Like if he's gonna throw you under the bus, he's gonna throw you under the bus. And
right.
He had like his own show out in when he was with Houston. And at the end of the show, he actually apparently, I heard this from a couple of different sources. He would, at the end of the show, have like a doghouse, and he would say who's in the doghouse and who's not. Like Buddy Ryan wasn't playing. He'd tell you if you weren't doing good, and he'd tell you on national TV.
Sounds like he was very old school, and that it's a type of mentality probably, most certainly wouldn't last in
it would not last
today's
NFL. I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, few and it's I don't know how much you know about Buddy Ryan, but few have I ever seen players love him. Like all of his players love. I've never seen a coach have as many players love him for as much as he was, because he was out there and he would talk bad about his own players. He did not care. He would just tell it how it was. Bomani Jones said it best. Everyone has that friend who's a jerk, and he was your jerk. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how his players felt about him, though, because they loved him. I mean, they embraced him in every aspect. He let them do a lot of things too, which is really, for his old school mentality like that he had like that. There's a famous video when he was the head coach. The Eagles, Randall, Reggie White, a bunch of them, the top players, Mike Quick, all of them are doing a rap song about the Eagles, about their position, and it's really funny and it's comical and it's 90s and it's like it's awesome though. But like he let them do that, you know what I mean? And but he was as hard as he was, so it's very interesting. None like him. He changed defenses for a very long time. I think now in today's NFL, it's not as used as much, just because today's NFL you're passing the ball a billion times.
Didn't he invent the 4-3?
Yes, he invented the 4-3. His philosophy was hit the quarterback. I mean, that was really the only thing that he ever cared about defensively. So, and if you look at his staffs, especially in Philadelphia, he had guys like Jeff Fisher on his coaching staffs. He had guys like Matt Williams, who was the famous bounty defensive coordinator for the Saints. He had Jeff Fisher. So I mean, that's just to name a few. He had a bunch. Gruden was on his staffs when he was in Philadelphia. He had a lot of very guys who went on throughout the league and did a lot of things. And plus, if you look at both of his sons defensively, they both know what they are doing, obviously. So his influence and his impact is still very well on the game today, systematically and just coaching wise. But so rest in peace to him. Very sad.
Absolutely.
Same day, we unfortunately get news earlier in that day that Pat Summitt, who
it's just been too much.
She changed women's sports, not even just women's basketball, not even just women's college basketball. She changed women's sports across the map.
She put it on the map.
She was 22 years old when she was hired as head coach at Tennessee, and she coached there until I think she was 64. So, I mean, incredible. Incredible.
First of all, to be hired that young is just...
Well, they said...
It's
funny story.
Remarkable to even think about that.
Funny story, and you always think of it, something like... Things that always turn out that great usually have a start where it's not supposed to happen. The coach at the time, she took like a leave of absence of some kind of sabbatical or something, and they offered the job to Pat Summitt in the meantime for like $250 a month or something like that, which back then they actually said it was enough to live off for a month. Not great, but it was enough to live off for a month. She took the job, and They never gave the other lady the job back, obviously. She
How did she feel?
probably that Pat Summitt was doing a much better job than her, I assume, because I mean, obviously, but no, she put dynasties together, and she never stopped pushing women's college basketball, and to the point where women's college basketball, and you know, people don't take it serious, okay? Like, we don't sit here and watch it. We don't sit here and watch it. We don't know much about it, but it's on ESPN. The whole entire tournament's on ESPN. That's a lot further than it was the day that she started, and she was watching close for the players. She was having them, you know, sleep on the bus or whatever, things like that. Like, just incredible stories about how she built them. She built them to be a dynasty in and of itself. But, like, she literally was like, well, if no one else is going to be doing good playing college basketball in women's, I'm at least going to get every single good one I possibly can. And she did. And she put this crazy thing together.
Dominated.
Made the Tennessee women's Vols. I mean, everybody knows of them, and it's impressive what she did, especially, you know, for it being a women's sport, which at the time when she started wasn't respected or looked at as, you know, even anything. It wasn't probably even on radio back then.
No, not at all. She definitely put it on that map. The one thing that kind of stands out to me, other than, you know, her accolades and stuff, it was, you know, before, and nobody has even said this, but before UConn was this dominant team that it is, it was Tennessee. It was Pat Summitt, and she was that dominant force. And unfortunately, because of illness, she, you know, basically just had to stop.
They were a 10-year rival. I mean, they were going at it for 10 years at the top. It just banging heads, and it's good to see, because everybody knew about Tennessee UConn rivalry. I remember watching those games. I remember sitting down watching, making sure I saw who won those games, or at least, you know, trying to catch it, because I do remember how big that was for sports and the impact it had.
It's huge.
Especially college basketball. So
especially for women's sports.
And women's college basketball was the first legitimate one that people followed, at least to any kind of sense towards. I would say it's the one that, if you had to pick any sport that men and women are playing on professional, or college, whatever, college basketball is probably the one that women's gets the most attention out of any other women's sport. Yes?
Oh yeah, definitely. And there's not even any. That is her.
That is her.
Definitely.
I mean, that was 110% what she did. So.
This is a shame.
Oh, it is. It's very sad.
Dude, it's been a crazy month.
I heard a good story about her. She was coaching, obviously, Tennessee at the time. Bruce Pearl was the coach for the men's team. And Bruce Pearl's he's running his practices or whatever, and he said something to her about how, I forget, he made a comment about lackluster with how they were playing, something to that effect. She goes in there and she goes, well, all right, so she sits on one of his practices. And then the next practice, she was like, all right, let me take control. And she coached them. And she said, well, actually, Bruce Pearl said that one of his players puked after the practice, and she just ran them out to the point where, like, it was the hardest practice they had all year. And I mean, is that credit to her or Bruce Pearl? You know what I mean? But insane that she could literally just sit there. I mean, that shows her basketball mind. That she went from coaching her team every single day, you know, making them as dominant as they were, and then being like, well, here, let me just show you how to run one practice, you know. And she did it to the point where his players never practiced to that extent. That's insane. It's crazy to think about. They said she used to make the men's coach have his team play her team because she was trying to stay as competitive as possible, and she was running out of competition playing the
that's
girls.
one way of doing it.
That's
Can't
awesome.
be mad at that.
That is awesome. I bet they probably won a few.
No question.
More than a few. Especially Tennessee basketball was never all that great on the men's side. But it was, you know what's funny is it was always brought up better because of the women's side. That's the first time you've ever seen it go in that transition. UConn has always been good on the men's side, but they have runs here and there. And I would definitely say that their women's basketball has heightened basketball in UConn, but their men's have always held up their end. There was no Tennessee basketball really. She was the first one to have Tennessee basketball on the map, and it was on the women's side. And now their men's team is always consistently there. But I think a lot of that is because of the hype that was there.
And that's definitely rare. That's definitely a testament to her.
Yeah.
And just the teams and the dominance that they had over the years. It's something that I'm willing to say now, you will never see something like that again, as far as just like the women's side of things just over dominating, you know, even the men's side, where it was just like, okay, when you talk about Tennessee basketball, you weren't talking about the men at all. You would talk about the men, or the women, excuse me, more so than anything. Yeah. And I don't think that's anything that we will ever see again. You can argue UConn at this point, but outside of that, we'll never see that again. So it's definitely a shame.
It is. Very sad day, unfortunately. Two coaching legends passing away. respecting their own style.
Too many passings going on, dude.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, in 2016 in general, it's just been wild.
June's been horrible. 2016 has been horrible.
Yeah.
I think we're good for the rest of the year.
Well, moving on to less lighter topics. The NBA, Derrick Rose was traded since our last show.
Who's that?
Derrick Rose, he was the point guard for the Bulls.
A former MVP.
Now,
Mr. Ankles.
I was with you, right? I was ready to just dog it, kind of go back and forth. And I sat down and I looked at some things.
Oh, Lord.
Last 16 games last year, he had some really good stats. Now,
don't go there.
2 things you need. He needs to stay healthy again, because last year was the first time that he stayed healthy a full season since, what, like 3 or 4 years ago?
2 things he needs, his legs.
That's funny. And he needs to stay in his lane. Like, his numbers would show that he was playing basketball to probably, a little bit of everything. He needs to continue to do that, especially if he thinks they're going to win in New York, which you need more than just Carmelo, him, and Porzingis.
Dude.
Which is all they have in the moment.
I don't even see... Can we just say how I don't understand how this is even going to work? We got 2 guys that need the ball in their hands at all times.
Well, Melo's good off the pass, though, and D. Rose can pass the ball well, and it's going to open Melo's shot up, I think, because of how good Rose can shoot. My thing is,
at this point,
does D. Rose get him the ball enough?
1, no. 2, at this point in Melo's career, I just don't see him. He's not going to change his game, so I mean... I feel like he needs the ball in his hands more so than
anything. He always plays better with superstars around him. Yes, he's never played with Allen Iverson was the closest thing, but that was the best parts of his career. The USA basketball, he always ends up being the best player in the USA basketball team.
I could win on the USA basketball team.
I'm not saying you could win. I'm saying would you look like you're the best player on the floor with that? Because he consistently always in every Olympics looks like the best player on the floor because his game works so well with them. Because they are all so good at passing. I understand that.
They also had Amari Stoudemire and that did absolutely nothing.
But Amari wasn't. As I said, superstars. Is Amari Stoudemire really a superstar? When he got to New York, was he really a superstar? Because
I'd say so.
Steve Nash was a big part of what he did in Phoenix. I'm not saying that Amari wasn't.
He was definitely a superstar when he got to
incredible.
New York.
Right? Okay, but throughout his New York career, I mean,
as it played out, no, he wasn't that guy. But how great has Carmelo been, really? I mean, outside of Mr. AI Jr. shooting up, 50 points here and there, that's great. But how far are you getting with that?
Well, I agree. No, I agree with that.
So
but he's still an elite scorer. He's still a top 5 scorer in the league.
So, bottom line, do you think that they can really compete in the East? Because I don't think that's a threat. I don't think that's a threat to anybody.
I think they can compete in the East because I think anybody can compete.
I don't see how those 2 alphas are just going to coexist. I said it before with Cleveland with Kyrie and LeBron.
Yeah.
That not coexisting. That just so happened to work in 3 games. Congratulations. But I don't see how that's going to work in New York when you got Carmelo that's never really been in a situation. If Derrick Rose is half of the guy that he was in Chicago, I don't see how it's going to be a situation where they can split roles that they can coexist to win. I just don't see how that's going to work.
I think there's a possibility.
I think they're like the same player to me. At different positions. I don't see how that's going to work.
No, because D. Rose passes the ball a whole heck of a lot more. Melo gets a lot of his points off the pass, off of the catch and shoots, and he doesn't have somebody throwing and catching. Jeremy Lin was throwing, catching, and shooting, and Melo was playing pretty well with him. Jeremy Lin played better with Melo off the floor because he wasn't passing the ball to him as much. But
Derrick Rose gets a lot of his points off of the dribble and going to the hole, and I don't know if he can do that anymore. And I don't think he's going to risk it. He's too worried about his kids graduating 20 years from now.
According to the last 16 games, he was putting up his best numbers. He was putting up a lot of scoring. So
and Chicago also had a much better team than New York has. So.
I don't disagree with that.
But shut down,
they didn't make the playoffs.
You can shut down one of the 2. To me, you shut down D. Rose and let Carmelo just shoot all day. You're going to defeat that. I just don't see this as a success. If they can get another piece, it doesn't have to be a superstar, but if they can get another piece that can kind of balance it out some, I could see it working. But right now, as it stands with Carmelo and D. Rose, I'm not. I wasn't excited about that. I thought it was funny.
Excited or not, I think it's interesting, and I think that it could be better than what people think it's going to be. But
I thought it was hilarious.
It's going to be a lot on how D. Rose obviously plays them, if they can adapt. Before we go on to a third person in New York, do you think it's a good move for the Bulls?
Who did the Bulls get out the deal? I don't even remember right now.
Oh, they got the best deal. They got Lopez and Grant, Gary and Grant.
Regardless of what the Bulls got back, it was a situation they had to get rid
Well, no, I agree.
The experiment was over. Did they get the most out of the deal? I don't know. Maybe could they have got more if they had done it like a year ago? Probably, absolutely. 2 years ago, most definitely. But it's a move they had to make. They wanted. It's clearly Jimmy Butler's team now.
That was what I was going to go with.
Clearly, that's a guy that you need to build around. He's stable. He's healthy. A lot more than Derrick Rose. So that's a situation where if you're Chicago, you have to just get what you can at this point because another year from now you're going to get even less. So you just get what you can get.
I like what they got back in the deal, but more importantly, I like that they showed Jimmy Butler that he's the guy. He's who they're taking down the road. He's their man. So, because he's the guy that they need to build off of. It's not even close. It's obvious. He had an incredible last 2 seasons. This year especially, him and Derrick Rose never figured out together on the court. They actually seem like they really like each other off the court, but you got to be able to figure it out on the court. It wasn't winning. They didn't even make the playoffs in the East. So.
You think that's a better? Do you think Derrick Rose in Chicago is a better situation with him and Melo than him and Jimmy Butler? Because I feel like him and Jimmy Butler would have been for D Rose. Is it a better situation between Melo or Jimmy Butler in Chicago? Because I feel like from a style wise, I just feel like if we look back 3, 4, 5 years from now, I would say that we're going to be like, okay, the Chicago situation with Jimmy Butler worked out better.
But
it's all hypothetical at this point. But
yes or no? Wasn't everybody saying for Melo to go to the Bulls?
Yeah.
So that would have been those 3.
So then you got that third piece that I was talking about.
Yeah, but
plus
you don't think they can work with just those 2. So what makes you think throw Melo over with?
Well, I said that I would want to see a third piece with.
I want to see a third piece.
Plus, not only just a third piece, but in comparison, if you look at the depth, Chicago had a much more deep. It would.
I agree with that.
If it's a different story if Carmelo goes to Chicago with that team at that time because from start to finish it was more solid and it was more what's the word I'm looking for?
Championship ready.
It was just more in depth.
Yeah, more put together.
Yeah, absolutely. Chicago is literally Porzingis, Carmelo, and D Rose. Right. Name a 4th or 5th Bull or Nick.
I agree.
I can't. Phil Jackson doesn't count.
Yeah, if you gave me like a couple minutes, I probably could, but I don't feel like sitting thinking about that. But
the fact that
I would have to sit and think about it. I would have to sit and think about it. Yes.
Point being, Carmelo goes to Chicago. That's a championship contender. You look at the Knicks and D Rose goes to the Knicks and just like, are you the 3rd, 4th best team in the East? Maybe 5th, 6th. We're pushing it.
I agree. I do not
That's the difference. The Knicks need to make another move, bottom line.
Well, speaking of other moves, they did say that they were going to go after KD. Who didn't say they were going after KD? Now, Melo did say he's had a couple dinners with him. They're going to the Olympics together, so they'll probably talk there. But
I don't see how that's going to work. Well, that's even more of a question mark to me.
Personally, I think it would be a step back. I think that the Heat would be a step back. I think that the Lakers would be a step back. I think anything outside of the... And let me put it this way. I have 2 categories. I have teams that he should definitely think about, teams that I wouldn't be mad if he thought about because I understand, and then the rest, right? The team I wouldn't be mad that they talked to because I understand would be Cleveland because they're a championship contender, right? Hold on, let me tell you my logic. I don't think he should go to Cleveland. My logic is that only because if you leave Oklahoma City, you can't go backwards. You cannot hustle backwards. You need to go to a team as good or better, and there's only 4 teams in the league legitimately right now this year that you could actually say you thought would win the championship. San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Golden State, and Cleveland. Those other 3 teams that I mentioned are the teams that he needs to stay in the realm of, and honestly I think he signs a 1-1, stays with Oklahoma City for a year, sees what his buddy does, see if him and Westbrook can try to rattle it off one more time, because we talked about the stat of 4 of the last 6 conference championships they were in, the 2 that they weren't, somebody was hurt, so they could try to give this one more run and then, whatever. My point is, don't talk to anybody outside of Golden State, San Antonio, or Oklahoma City because those are anything else is a step back outside of Cleveland, and Cleveland is obviously not an option. So those 3 are, you know what I'm saying?
It depends what he's looking to do. I mean, if he's looking at it from your perspective, which he probably should be, which is to compete next year, then absolutely he needs to stick to either where he's at or go to those 3 or 4 teams.
Yeah.
But if he's looking at 2, 3, 4 years from now, does he look? Frankly, at the Lakers, does he look at a team that has a little more cap with a big market like the Lakers? I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Sure.
I already said that I want Westbrook over Durant, but that's a whole other story. But regardless, does does that factor in? I don't know, because like you said, and you're right, it would definitely be a step back for him to go to any other place than those 3 or 4 teams. I said if LeBron loses this championship this year, that he would be the first person on the phone with Durant. The fact that they won now, they don't need him.
No, I don't think he's going to Cleveland at all.
Okay, so that's one. Go to State. They already said they don't need him. Do they? And I kind of.
I think they're going to go after him. I mean, they scheduled a meeting with him. I think they'll go after him.
I really don't know how I feel about that. I don't think that they need him, but okay, let's say that's 2. Who's left? San Antonio. Now we're talking a little something. Now we got obviously the big 3 that are on the tail end of their career. They have Kawhi Leonard. They have LaMarcus Aldridge.
Those 3 together.
That is a disgusting lineup, in a good sense. Who's the other team? The 4th team?
It'll be Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma. I don't think you go back to that just because of the fact that been there, done that. It hasn't worked.
I mean, you and I both agree that San Antonio is the best option, but I think that if you put San Antonio for any team or any player in the league, if there was any player free agency and they were picking options, I think you and I would always say San Antonio should be the team that they go to in every instance,
at this
no matter
stage,
how good they are. So
they're like the Patriots. That's just the team that you would go to.
San Antonio is, I think, the best fit, obviously, if he's really looking to leave. But I think that Oklahoma City is his best option to go 1-1 and do this one more time, because
if he wants a 1-year deal, absolutely, then you just stick it out, see what happens. But I got a feeling he just wants a little more at this point.
Everybody in the entire league, their best move right now would be to do a 1-1 deal, because your most money becomes after this year.
Right.
So your 1-1 gives you the option to opt in or opt out. You obviously opt out and then decide a 10 times bigger contract.
So at the end of the day, do you think he's going to stay or do you think he's going to leave? You don't even have to say what team.
I think he stays.
I think he's leaving.
I think he stays. Like I said, I think
I'm not going to be surprised if he stays.
I
Just
think he
because
does
of what
the
we just talked about.
I truly do think he does the 1-1. I truly think that he gives it one more shot with Westbrook.
Is Oklahoma City really risk that though? Because we're looking at a situation where they could potentially have their 2 guys for 1 more year, but then lose the 2 guys for the following year.
What choice do you have? Tell him not to come back.
That's a hell of a
and
risk.
trade Westbrook. That would be.
Are you going to trade one of them? That's what I'm getting at. Do you trade one of them at that point?
You have to trade both of them if you don't think they're coming back. But wow,
that's an ugly situation.
Like if he doesn't sign, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't sign, you have to trade Westbrook right away.
It's a no-win situation. Wouldn't want to be that team right now.
Well, another free agent on the board is Whiteside from Miami. Had a couple years in the league, didn't do all that well. Ends up spurting up the last 2 seasons since LeBron's been non-Miami. They picked him up right after that. Everybody in the league this offseason is going to get max money. Not everybody, but a lot of players, because of how big the cap is. Would he get max money in a regular year? I don't know. I don't think he would deserve max money in a regular year. As a Lakers fan, would you want him? Not even just for the Lakers, just like for your team, I guess.
I'll speak as a Lakers fan. Do I want him? If I make, I'm gonna take the big money thing out of the equation. Do I want him from just the morale perspective, as a fan perspective? Absolutely. I feel like that's a situation where you're getting a guy that he's like 27, 28, something like that. Relatively young guy.
Yeah.
He's kind of coming into his own. I feel like if you get a guy like that, it's a good sign, and it just shows that the Lakers are trying to get going somewhere with somebody, and I feel like he could potentially draw some guys. The issue that I have, one, is the money. Is he worth max money? I don't know if 14 and 12 is really worth max money.
I agree.
It doesn't really sound like it to me. 2, he's a relatively young guy, 27 or whatever. And then you got the rest of the team that is much younger than him. You got D'Angelo that just, wants to take photos and stuff of everybody or record people. You got Nick Young, you got a bunch of kids, and then you got a young coach in Luke Walton. I don't know if that's
a combination.
I don't know if that would work. They would need to get a veteran presence that can hold it down. I don't know if Luke is that type of coach that can do it. So let's say that he's not. Then who do you turn to? There's not a veteran on that team. Who's it going to be? Just drew a blank. Who's the center? Not Brandon Bass.
Hibbert?
Is it going to be Roy Hibbert?
As a Lakers fan,
if Doc Rivers was my coach, I might feel a little differently, but he's not. I don't know how Luke Walton is as a leader. I just don't know. Could he be that guy? Sure, but back to Whiteside, from a fan perspective, do I want to see him in a Lakers uniform? Absolutely. Does he deserve max money? Probably not. But I can see where they're coming from. They're looking at an Andrew Bynum
You have to give
situation.
everybody max money. There's so many players.
Right.
Nicolas Batum's getting max money this year.
Nicolas Batum is a much better player than
I
Whiteside. Whiteside has a lot more upside.
My point is that neither player would be max player money.
The Lakers are looking at Whiteside as an Andrew Bynum situation.
I agree.
Absolutely. He's young, apparently immature, but he has promise and upside, so I can see that. I'm just not confident in the rest of the roster holding together for him.
As a Sixers fan, I don't want him. I understand all your points there as a Lakers fan because all those reasons of why you wouldn't want him is why I don't want him. And my other thought is, and I don't really like to say that people could be bust or are bust, but like he only has 2 years in the league, and
that's the scary part.
He has long-term contract, never pan out, written all over him. I don't know why. I usually don't get that feeling about players.
Yeah, it's far too early to tell. Like I said, 14 and 12.
He's very valuable, and he had 2 very good years, and he's been fun to watch those 2 years.
14 and 12 isn't really telling of.
I'd like to see him continue to do well, especially if it's not in the East, but just don't see it happening. Long term, let me put it that way.
Well, I agree. The thing is that when we looked at that Miami team this past year, we all said that, man, that was a hell of a blow defensively for that team when he went down. So could he be just that anchor defensive player that you can build around? Absolutely. I just don't know if I trust it or not.
It's a new NBA where individual defensive players stand out so much that he does look that valuable when he's not on the floor.
And he's exactly what I like. He's that traditional center. He's a big guy. He's not shooting jumpers all day. He's in the post. He's backing the guy down. He's blocking. He's rebounding. That's exactly what I want at my center. I just don't know if you can build around that for the next 10 years. I just don't know. He's too unproven. Would I like to see him in like a uniform? Sure. If not, I guess it's really no big loss because we don't really know.
Well, I'm excited to see how it pans out with him.
Somebody's overpaying for him regardless. I
agree. I keep saying that the Sixers are probably going to try to go after Nicolas Batum. Now, I don't think he'll go there. He'll go somewhere to a valuable team. But I think they're going to go big splashes. I could see them going after Whiteside, something like that.
So you're going to have another center?
No, I hope not. But I could see them trading both these guys because they keep talking about one or two and getting a bunch of assets in return and then putting max money out there for something like that. Unfortunately, the Sixers' options are wide open. I want them to see that. I would like to see Okafor if I had to pick one to get traded and keep Noel. They keep saying that if it's going to be one of two, it's going to be probably Noel, which kind of sucks. They got to trade 2 or 3 of these guys. No more than 3 though. I wouldn't like to see them trade more than 3 of these guys. 2 of them is actually what I really like. Just 2 of the guys gone and then try to build with the rest of them, especially with how deep your bench can be with all the second round picks. But they're going to try to go after free agent Harrison Barnes.
I mean, that's not bad for y'all, I guess.
I don't see him doing it.
Yeah. I mean, from your perspective,
as a Sixers fan, obviously,
I think that's
and with how the team is building, it'd be great, and then you could make some trades and get a bunch around him. Absolutely.
I think for a Sixers fan and for the organization, I think that's the big enough splash. It goes okay. I feel good about that.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not going to be a Kevin Durant, it's not going to be a LeBron situation where it's like, oh my God, we got this big star, but it's enough of a splash. It was like, okay, I see what you're doing, but like you said, do I see him doing that? Absolutely not. I just don't.
I can see him.
Why would he go from a team that's going to win to the 76ers that frankly haven't competed in how long and don't really have an upside other than potential for the future, but that's 3, 4, 5 years from now.
They would have to make moves to prove to him that they could win right now.
Right, and I just don't think that's a hell of a step back. Talk about KD.
Yeah, right, and that's how I view things with players is you don't ever want to hustle backwards. I can see him going though, because anything outside Golden State's backwards.
If they can get a Harrison Barnes and they can get maybe a Nicolas Batum.
Yeah.
Maybe they can humor
but I can
each
see
other,
Harrison
both players.
More and I know Nicolas Batum's old team is Portland, but I can see him more going to a Portland or a Mavericks or
solid.
A Pelicans or
they at
Charlotte,
least have somewhat
Heat.
They kind of have a foundation at least.
That's my point. Is I can see him going somewhere where yes, I get it. Golden State, outside of Golden State, everything is hustling backwards, but he's still I think going to try to go be a cornerstone player on a team that can compete.
You're talking about going from one of the.
That has been competing because I think the Sixers can compete very soon, not this year, but I think they compete in the next couple of years.
You're trying to convince a guy to go from one of the best teams of all time, right, the greatest,
to a team that won less than 20 games last year.
it's not very convincing.
I get it.
From the Sixers' perspective, it's probably the best thing I've heard them.
I don't think he's gonna go there.
From the Sixers' perspective, it's probably one of the best moves I heard them talk about in a long time.
Yeah.
It's not an overrated or washed up power forward.
I can honestly say, and I know free agency hasn't started, but I like what they did in the draft. You know, they haven't. I like what they have done this offseason, even personnel-wise, like personnel coaching-wise, things like that. There's a lot of things that they have done this offseason that it looks like they're trending to try to start winning today. Whether or not they can, that's a different story.
Harrison Barnes will only benefit that.
Right. There's so much in free agent left coming because, I mean, Dirk, like I said, he was a free agent. There's so much in free agency coming up here in the next couple of weeks that
So
it's very unopen.
Would you rather have a Harrison Barnes come, or would you rather Nicolas Batum? I feel like y'all would have more of an upside if you would get a Harrison Barnes.
Let me put it this way. I take Nicolas Batum because he's really good defensively, and
he's excellent defensively.
He's consistently good at shooting threes. And the Sixers don't have a guy who can consistently shoot threes right now. They're good defensively, actually. They're actually pretty good defensively. But he would just add to it. Always in to add another guy, especially that would just make them so lethal defensively. But he can hit threes consistently, and that's a very big deal because they don't have a guy doing that right now. So I would take him. But Harrison Barnes changes in so many different ways. He opens up your roster. You got to figure out how to get a jump shooter on the team if you put Harrison Barnes on there because he's going to open up that jump shooter so much. Obviously, he does that in Golden State, but
they would just lock down on him and make everybody else in Philadelphia shoot.
But that's what makes it so well for him is that he can just toss it to a guy who's great at jump shooting, and then they can't always just lock down on him. There's so many hypotheticals of what they would have to do if they did pick him up, and they would need to hope that Ben Simmons can run it like Draymond because then you got Harrison Barnes sitting right there next to him, doing the same thing that Harrison Barnes has always done. You get a jump shooter and a Draymond Green around him, you're basically putting him back in that system. They have the talent down low. Overall, they have the talent. Overall, they just got to make the right moves in the next couple of weeks here to eventually, if not this offseason, get guys like him when they're free agents to come to Philadelphia.
Fair enough. I mean, it's as a Philadelphia hater or whatever. I mean, it's. If I was a fan, I would at least be like, at least
there's upside now.
Right, at least there's kind of some talk of, oh my God, we actually might have a little bit of an upside. We might have a little boost this year, this coming year. I'm sure that's a fresh change, so I'm not mad at it. Like I said, I think the talks of Nicolas Batum or especially a Harrison Barnes is only beneficial for the franchise. So good for them. If it actually works out, cool. At least if they get a talk, good for them.
Yeah,
at least get a guy in the building.
Absolutely. It is
definitely a start.
Well, next week we're going to talk about UFC 200, and then we might take a break for a little bit after that, but
maybe.
We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. If anything big in sports happens, we're always here to talk about it. It's JD Sports. So,
absolutely.
Thank you for watching. I'm Jared Hood. That's Dwight Garfield.
Peace out.